Hi everyone, Jodie Hill here from Thrive Law. As you're probably aware if you're following us on social media, we're offering free support to individuals and businesses who are impacted by COVID in their workplace, obviously. And the reason why we're doing that is because, first of all, we've got the skills to do that. And secondly, there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of uncertainty out there. But what we're noticing through this advice line is that there's a lot of individuals coming through who are shielding, who are really concerned about their rights when it comes to redundancy. So today I'm going to talk to you about whether or not you can be made redundant whilst shielding. And this is a really interesting topic because it's not just about the fact that they're shielding. We have to look at whether or not they're shielding because of a disability. So the first question I'm going to answer is, what is a disability? A disability is where an individual suffers with a mental or physical impairment, and they have to suffer or likely to suffer for more than 12 months. And not only that, they have to show under the Equality Act whether or not it has a substantial and adverse effect on their ability to do day-to-day activities. So that's not just at work, that's day-to-day stuff like being able to take the dog for a walk or socialise or get up the stairs or get something out of a cupboard or breathing or concentrating. But it has to be more than minor or trivial. So what we're trying, then the reason I want to talk about disability is there's a misconception that disability is registered disabled with a blue badge, and for the purposes of employers' obligations under the Equality Act, that's not correct. It's actually a much lower threshold than disability status as we know it in the general public, and employers have obligations to make reasonable adjustments where someone is disabled. So if someone's shielding, they could be disabled. They may have a condition that amounts to a disability under the Act. So employers, first of all, need to understand those obligations, and if they are considering redundancy, considering making reasonable adjustments prior to any redundancy process and during that process as well, to enable the individual to engage, but also considering suitable reasonable adjustments, furlough and working from home where possible. Now, if the individual is shielding and has a disability, it doesn't stop the employer from making them redundant. They can still make the employee redundant. However, they must ensure that it's not because of their disability, because that would be direct discrimination. If they simply say, well, you've got asthma, so we're dismissing you, or you have a mental health problem, so we're dismissing you, that would be direct discrimination. And that's really rare that occurs. I think most employers are pretty savvy that you can't do that. What's less obvious is Section 15 of the Equality Act. Now, these dismissals are where you are dismissed because of something that arises in consequence of your disability. So, for example, if you're on long-term sick or you're shielding and that's because of your disability, and then you are selected for redundancy because of that or dismissed because of capability because of that, then it could be that that is discriminatory. And it could be discriminatory because of the disability. So these claims are less obvious, obviously more subtle, in the sense that the employer is not going out there saying, you know, we hate disabilities, and they probably have a genuine reason to select. But they have to make adjustments and have to have considered suitable alternatives before they get to that point. Otherwise, it could be discrimination. So the short answer is, no, you can't. You're not protected fully, and you know they can dismiss you. But equally, just because they can dismiss you doesn't mean that that's non-discriminatory. So it's looking at the reasons for dismissal, what happened in that process, and also considering the fairness. If you've got more than 2 years employment, you're also, any employee, regardless of a disability, is entitled to a fair process. So really consider things like fair process, what adjustments were offered, were suitable alternatives considered, was an appeal offered, were you able to engage in the process, and really understand whether or not you were selected because of, or because of something arising in consequence of a disability. And actually, once you get to that point, you will then be able to understand whether or not you have a potential claim for discrimination. Now, these claims are really complicated. I've tried to summarise it in like under 5 minutes, but by all means, please do get in contact if you think that you're shielding and that you may have been discriminated against, or you're an employer and you don't know how to handle as somebody who is shielding or someone who may have a disability, you don't know what adjustments are reasonable, then please do get in contact with us. We've got a free advice line. It's coronavirus@thrivelaw.co.uk. It's open all the time. Obviously, we'll reply when we can, but equally, you know, it is important that we get this right. And actually, you know, those people shielding are the most vulnerable in society, so we do need to support them, and we do need to act fairly and non-discriminatory towards them. that we understand what is a fair redundancy, what's a fair consultation. And I'm also going to be doing some videos for those who are pregnant returning to work. There's loads of inquiries around that. So if you have any questions on those topics and you want me to cover them in the next video, please do DM me or write a comment below. If this has been helpful, or if you're shielding or someone you know is shielding, please do reach out and, take advantage of the free advice line, but share this video so people can see what their rights are.